Southern wins the petty war by getting a Grambling quarterback to switch sides. Tarik Cohen suffers a major setback, but we want to look at the play everybody is excited about returning. And Markquese Bell and James Houston excite in their rookie minicamps. Oh, yeah, it's Locked On HBCU. Play my music.
You are Locked On HBCU, your daily podcast covering HBCU sports. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's going on, family? Welcome back to another episode of the Locked On HBCU podcast. Number one, daily one-stop shop for everything HBCU athletics, Monday through Friday, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And me, you know me, I am Darian Gray, a.k.a. the Mouth of the South, Texas Southern alum, and former TSU Herald Sports editor. Thank you for going on this journey with me, making Locked On HBCU your first listen of the day every day. And of course, when the mic cuts off, the journey does not stop. So follow me on Twitter at South Exclusives. And I want to talk about, oh man, I don't know what I want the tagline to be. Do I want it the fact that Southern should be crowned the champion of this 2022 offseason petty war between their arch nemesis, their rival Grambling? I want to say that Noah Bodden is a traitor. I don't know. I don't know what I want to say. It trips me up because both things are true, completely true. I think I'm gonna go with Southern because I don't want to paint Noah out to be a bad guy. Nah, who am I kidding? I'm here for all of the dramatics. I'm here for all of the theatrics. You know, once upon a time, Booker T once said that he was talking about some guy on wrestling, and he said that guy's the Benedict of all Benedicts, right? Just talking about a traitor, just a guy who's like, he said he is my Judas. Right? It was a great line. You should look it up. But that's what this made me think of. It made me think of the Benedict of all Benedicts line. I was sitting here thinking like, man, we've seen players go conference to conference or really interconference. We've seen players even stay within the conference and also stay within the division. However, when it's your quarterback, specifically your quarterback, they stay within the division or stay within the conference, stay within the division, and go to the biggest rival that you have. Man, that's got to sting. And listen, Grambling fans should take solace in the fact that he probably was not going to be the quarterback. I feel very likely in saying that, or very confident in saying that, but it's still a quarterback. And I really don't care what happens on the field. I want to, let's get this disclaimer. We're a couple of minutes into the show. It does not matter what happens on the field. Recruiting is nothing but predictions and assumptions and all of those things. Anyway, nobody ever knows how anybody is going to turn out. Even the most surefire of things can fail. So I really don't want to predict what he will be in Southern. I just want to talk about the fact that this is petty. This is pettiness at its peak, and I appreciate it. I do. And I've made a big fuss about all of the things that Grambling, or all of the players that Grambling has taken from Southern, and some of the back and forth. And I was ready to end this. I was ready to be done with the petty talks, right? Southern said, Mouth of the South, don't you know the pettiness never stops? And you only think you're ahead until we come and one up you. And that's exactly what happened, because I don't care what big time recruits that they stole from Southern. None of those amount to a quarterback, even if it's not your quarterback, because solace or no solace, if my arch nemesis were to take my quarterback or a quarterback from me, I'm gonna have a little. Now I don't want to say take, because that says that Grambling is losing something, and I don't think that he was going to be the guy for them. And we'll talk about one of the reasons I feel that way going forward. But if a quarterback of mine were to go to the arch nemesis, I'm gonna have a salty looking, a salty feel in my mouth. I am. And it's just because I'm looking at a situation where you can go anywhere. You can go anywhere, but you chose to stay in state and go there. You could have went to anywhere in the state if you wanted to, but there. Now let's look at. You don't think this is petty? You might think I'm tripping, right? Let's look at the goodbye note to Grambling / announcement of going to Southern, right? And here it goes. So first off, he starts off thanking Coach Fobbs, which makes extreme sense because Coach Fobbs is the reason that he's at Grambling. It only makes sense. And you see no mention of Hugh Jackson in there. Why would he, right? Because that's not the guy who brought him back. Okay, but he was under Coach Jackson for a decent amount of time. I understand that he didn't play a fall season, like actual regulation games under Jackson. However, he did play a spring, if you want to talk about when pads were on. Even before that, he had been with Coach Jackson for a decent amount of time. And honestly, I think that he would have thanked Coach Jackson and the current regime if he wasn't going where he was going. That's my personal feeling. Look, it's a minor pettiness right there. You might think I'm reaching. That's minor. That is minor. But it's a situation where, thanking Coach Fobbs and not thanking Jackson means that he knows he was never going to be the guy. I still think it's Kajaya Holloway's job to lose. I do. I still believe that. And as many people transfer, that's what's going to continue to make me feel this way. But that could be a sign of that, or it could just be a sign that I'm going to Southern and I'm not thanking the current team that I'm trying to go IU Classic, maybe. But remember, this is not even talking about what happens on the field. And then here goes the part. If you think I was reaching with that, if you think that I was just making stuff up, here goes the pettiness. He says, and I quote, "My next destination wears gold and blue, and I'll be dropping the G and repping SU." Now, I don't know if just the way I said it made it sound like he was trying to drop bars. I don't know. But let's focus on that last line. Regardless, I'll be dropping the G and repping SU. The disrespect. Come on. I love it. I love it. I have no dog in his race, so I don't care. But this is disrespectful. But the proper kind of disrespect, the kind of disrespect that we can tolerate and we can talk about. The pettiness here is nonpareil. It definitely is. It's one of those things that I just don't see it happen often. This is unmatched disrespect and pettiness to say I'm dropping the G. Basically, he just flipped the middle finger to Grambling. Because mind you, what goes on the helmet of Grambling? The G. The G is a big thing. I'm dropping the G and repping SU. I love it. I absolutely love it. I think that I was ready to declare Grambling the winner, crown them. What Denny Smith said, if you want to crown them, then crown them. And I was going to. But now I see there was a reason that I was not so quick to end the war, wave the white flag and call it. And that's because Southern still had one more trick up their sleeve, and that was recruiting a quarterback, the most important position on the field, away from arch nemesis Grambling. And they just took a recruit from Mississippi Valley. Y'all gonna stop being bullies, Southern, okay? Y'all gonna stop doing this. Let people have their players. But I don't care what happens on the field once again. I just care about the pettiness, and that's all I wanted to talk about on the subject because that's funny to me. They're winning. They're winning. Sorry. It is what it is. Southern got the best of this affair during the 2022 offseason. Now, going forward, we're not going to be talking about the happiest of things, and we're going to talk about Tarik Cohen and how he had a major setback, but we're not going to harp on that too much. We're also going to talk about why people are so excited to see Tarik Cohen return to action, and we really do hope that he does. But before we get into that, let's talk about Built Bar, because Built Bar is the best protein bar on the market, bar none. There is no comparison. There is no competition. I'm not putting Built Bar next to anybody else because I once seen, listen, I was listening to an interview about John Jones today, or an interview from John Jones, and he was talking about how he's not going to talk about people who are below them and only bringing them up. So I'm not mentioning anybody else because there is only one, like the Highlander. There can only be one, and it is Built Bar. I'm talking 17 grams of protein. I'm talking 4 grams of sugar, 4 net carbs, a multitude of delicious flavors that don't sound like they should be as healthy as they actually are. They have multiple variations. You want the Built Bar regular covered in chocolate? That's cool. They'll be delicious for you. You want the Built Bar Puffs covered in chocolate still, but then has protein infused marshmallow? You can't tell me that protein infused marshmallow don't at least intrigue you a little bit, pique your interest the tiniest bit. And it is that delicious. Trust me. Go to built.com if you don't and try it for yourself using Lock15 for 15% off your offer. All right, so keep on rolling on today's episode of Locked On HBCU. Thank you for making us your first listen of the day every day. And make sure that you're checking out the Locked On NBA Big Boards podcast. The NBA Draft Lottery just happened, so it's more important than ever. You got Rafael Barlow, host of NBA Draft Junkies and the author of the NBA Big Boards newsletter. He is joined by Richard Stayman, Sam Ferris, and Leif Thulin, giving you information about the NBA Draft, mock drafts, and of course, your big board. So you're not going to want to miss that. And today's word of the day is nonpareil, meaning having no equal. That pettiness was nonpareil by just dropping the G. The disrespect, okay? But we're not going to talk about that. We're going to talk about something a little bit more somber for a quick second because we're not going to downshift the whole mood here. We're going to bring it right back up. But that's Tarik Cohen, and that's the fact that after having injuries, devastating injuries that have kept him out for basically 2 years, the majority of the 2020 season and also 2021. He was working out on Instagram Live, just detailing his return, his comeback, and he suffered a torn Achilles. And it's something that a lot of people speculated, but the news came out later on last night, basically saying, yes, it was a torn Achilles, and this would put him out likely for the rest of the season. Or the season had started, but it would likely put him out for the season. So now you'll be seeing the guy who is one of the more exciting players in the NFL. He'll be missing 3 years of his career with lower extremity injuries. And it's not like he has broken hands or no, we're talking about torn ACLs. We're talking about torn Achilles. We're talking about injuries of that sort that strip away explosiveness. And we hope that's not the case. I think that medical I don't want to say it. I don't want to say it. I don't be wrong, but I think that the way that doctors in the medical field has progressed, injuries of this sort have become easier to come back from. We've seen people come back at a high level before, and of course, we're wishing for that for him. I'm not a doctor though, so I'm not going to belabor the point. I'm not going to sit here and talk about the injury. We know how bad a torn Achilles is. It'll keep him out for a year. I'm not going to talk about the rehab process. I don't know that. That's not my specialty. But I will talk about the player that we hope to see when he comes back. And these type of injuries, this type of down luck will make people get behind you and want to root for you. However, if you're looking at the player that Tarik Cohen is, that's the reason that we were excited for him to get on the field before this last setback. This is the guy who is absolutely explosive. His athleticism jumps off the screen. You can never miss it. This is a player who, I'm thinking of this one play that he had against Atlanta, and I love when plays happen against Atlanta. It was a play where it was a pitch, right? And his pitch left, wasn't nothing there. He shows explosiveness through the hole at all times. Don't get it wrong. He always shows explosiveness, but on this particular play, there was nothing there. So he reverses field. A lot of players show the ability to do this in college. They have the athleticism, the speed, and everything that can do things like this in college. But he had that speed that translates to the pros, where people in the pros are envious of you. You don't want him to get into the open field if you're a defender. If you're a viewer, you probably love for him to be in the open field because you know he has that juice. But on this play, there was nothing there. There was no hole to shoot. So he reverses field, and he's probably about 7 to 10 yards behind the line of scrimmage when he gets to reversing field. He's 10 at his farthest peak, right? He turns his play into a 40, 45-yard game. And not everybody can reverse field in the way that he did in the professional level. It's not the same. I know we see it a lot as far as just people reversing field, but you think about it, probably 8 to 9 times out of 10 that you're seeing that play happen is collegiately. He has that type of speed. Now, don't get it twisted or not even get it twisted, but I think by that metric and by that play, you can tell that the athleticism was only, probably even more dominant in college. And he is a North Carolina A&T legend. I told y'all, we're not doing this doom and gloom thing. No, we're going to celebrate and talk about the player that we hope to get back. All right. We're talking about what Tarik Cohen will we see, or the Tarik Cohen that we want to see when he does return, because he is going to return. Send your prayers, your well wishes, whatever you subscribe to, send your good vibes to Tarik Cohen. But in North Carolina A&T, you're looking at a guy that was high ranking in a variety of different statistical categories in the nation. You know, we're talking about a guy who was one of the better running backs on the FCS level in his time. He spent 3 years as an Aggie, and he rushed for 1,000 yards every single season. The first Aggies running back to rush for 1,000 yards as a freshman. We're talking about a guy who had the most rushing yards as an Aggie in a 2-year span, totaling nearly 3,000. And honestly, they're lucky that not North Carolina A&T, but the MEAC is lucky that he decided to leave after 3 years, because he was going to be on the top of all those record books. He was. He had less than 700 yards to get to being the leading MEAC rusher. He only needed about, I ain't gonna say only, because that's still a good amount, but he needed about 900 and some change to be the first running back to ever hit 5,000 in MEAC history. And at the pace he was going to hit it. This guy is absolutely phenomenal. And if you want to look at what he did, North Carolina A&T, he is the all-time leading rusher when he left. And like I said, he was almost the all-time lead rusher for the MEAC, period. But he did do that for North Carolina A&T. And his punctuation, his exclamation, was a near 300-yard performance in the Celebration Bowl to end his career. Then he began backflipping and catching passes and catching the eyes of everybody in the scouting departments. But that's what he did in North Carolina A&T. 2-time Offensive Player of the Year for the MEAC, 3-time first-team All-MEAC, and mind you, he was only there for 3 years. So every single year, he was an All-MEAC player, first team. We rooting for you, man. We rooting for you. We sending our best towards you. And at the end of the day, I hope that he comes back at least showing somewhat of the player that we know him to be, and that's why we're rooting for him. Not only from a personal level, because he's had a lot going on, and injuries is just the ain't even half of it, to be honest. We're rooting for him, though. At the end of the day, we're rooting for Tarik Cohen to come back, make a comeback, and do everything that he needs to get back on the field and show us why he's one of the most special talents in the NFL. Going forward, we're going to talking about a couple of HBCU guys can name for themselves the same way that Tarik Cohen did throughout the beginning of his career. We're talking about Markquese Bell and James Houston, 2 guys who have been impressing with their mindsets as you know, along with also being a good player in rookie minicamp. But before we get into that, let me tell you about Rock Auto. If you have absolutely any problems with your car, you need to make sure that you're going to Rock Auto, because I like to save money. I went and got gas the other day. Gas is ridiculously high. It is. We got to save money in any way that we can. And the best place to save money is Rock Auto, because if you have to do something on your car, man, don't sit there and go to an auto parts store and waste your time. They're only going to give you like a couple of options. No, I like to have a lot of options in front of me so I can select what I want. I can actually feel like I'm picking something, not just picking from the scraps or only picking from what you give me. They have a wide array of selections for any car that you need. And they're also going to have prices that are 30, 40, 70% cheaper than at these auto parts store. Stop dealing with them. It's a family-owned business. It's what I like. It's cheaper, what I like, and it's great quality. So you're not sacrificing quality for price. It's simple. Go to rockauto.com and put Locked On in the How Did You Hear About Us section, because it's the only smart move. Go save yourself some money. All right, so wrapping up today's episode of Locked On HBCU, I want to talk about James Houston and Markquese Bell, who have been impressing and performing very well in their rookie minicamps for the Cowboys and Lions, respectfully. Let's start off with James Houston, because James Houston is a guy who we have raved about his versatility. He's a guy who can play with his hand in the dirt, and then he can also play linebacker, stand-up linebacker, because that's what he did at Florida. He was a stand-up linebacker, but he achieved his most success as a hand in the dirt defensive end at Jackson State. I thought that's what they would do for him. I thought they would continue to keep his hand in the dirt, but that's not what they did. I thought even they would choose to maybe forward, but that's also not what they're choosing to do. Detroit is choosing to put him at off-ball linebacker, and I'm not here to critique the decision. Clearly, the tagline says they have been impressing. Now, it wasn't just riding a bike. See, you know, they say it's like riding a bike. You can get right back on. You can do. Nah, it was not that way for James Houston. And it's okay, because what came from it not being like riding a bike, in my opinion, is just as, if not more impressive than if he just came in and was like he never played with his hand in the dirt for a year. That's what it would have been for me, at least. And they said in one particular drill, Coach Shepard, the linebackers coach, was basically talking to him the whole time. Now, that would make you think that it wasn't like riding a bike. Coach was talking to him the whole time. How was he impressive? Well, from that, after that happened, he decided that he had the appropriate reaction to coaching and not just taking it in. He put that coaching place immediately. Those words from the coaches turned to action by the player in the same practice. And they said that it was absolutely remarkable because you could see the change throughout practice. It was very apparent because after being talked to this whole time, he had a couple of plays that were really impressive and had some real standout coverage. Mind you, that's one of the differences likely going from off-ball linebacker or going from in the dirt to sliding back a level is now you have to cover again. Seriously. And I was looking at some breakdown of cornerbacks probably a couple of years ago. I think it was a year ago, actually, during last draft cycle. And the guy was talking about who are you when things don't go right? Because everything is not going to go perfect for you. When things go wrong, what do you look like? What do you do when you have to troubleshoot? And that's not a segue into what Markquese Bell would do as a defensive back. No, this is describing one of the plays that people talked about for James Houston. And a play where he slipped in coverage. Things aren't going right now, but he was able to get back up. He was able to recover and then also get his hands on the football. And I know he's going to want that pick because defensive players love to get their interceptions because they like, man, especially linebackers, they might not get a lot of shots, especially being on the edge for so long. He's like, man, I know I can catch. I've seen the interception he had, I think in the SWAC championship game. I know he can catch. So I know he's probably beating himself up doing his 10 push-ups or whatever because he didn't catch that pass. Now, Markquese Bell impressed me in the same way that, or at least a similar way, that James Houston impressed me, and that was with the intangibles. See, James Houston had a phenomenal reaction to the coaching as far as putting it into place immediately. That turnaround was quick. For Markquese Bell, it's about the mindset. He looks good on the field. Don't get me wrong. We'll get into that in a second. But I want to talk about the quote that he had, and it was, I want to contribute on special teams. That is going to get my foot in the door. I want to learn the playbook and get with some older guys that know the system and learn from them to help me get where I want to go. His mindset is perfect. He's a UDFA guy. Let's be very clear. He's a UDFA guy who is hoping to make those connections. He said, I'm going to get with the guys who've been here. He's talented. That UDFA status is not a label of his talent. This guy is really good. I don't care if he's drafted. Y'all know how I feel about him. But wanting to get involved, being eager to get involved on special teams, that's next level for me. Because some people don't understand that, like, man, I just got to be the best safety out here. No, maybe I need to learn how to do some special teams or be active on special teams, because special teams leads to teams holding more players at a position than they might typically do. That's what, if you're a really good special teamer, maybe they keep 4 safeties on a regular, but Markquese Bell is such a good special teamer that they'll keep 5. It's not even about taking that 4th guy out sometimes. It's so valuable in another aspect, which is special teams. So I love the mindset. Now let's talk about the player himself. And this is something from a longtime writer for the Dallas Cowboys. He said, after 2 rookie minicamp practices, I see why Markquese Bell caught the Cowboys' eyes. The way he moves at 6'2", 212 caught my eye too. I think I understand why the Cowboys actually paid the undrafted rookie a $15,000 signing bonus to make sure that they got their man and basically guaranteed him at least an 18-week minimum of the practice squad pay. I ain't about to have you counting that man pockets no more than I already did by talking about the guaranteed, okay? He put the number down here, but I ain't going to say it. And one thing you see is that the contract, in at least this guy, in Spagnola's mind, Mickey Spagnola, is basically a confirmation that he will be on this practice squad at the worst. That's great, because now you at least have a year to develop. And I know the kind of player that Markquese Bell is, and I believe that that player is one that's capable of, if you give him a practice squad year to maybe refine that a lot of people, or not a lot of people, but a good amount of people said he might need. Oh, now you might see him competing. If he doesn't get that roster spot this year, you might see him next year, at least being on the practice squad. And he's already making plays. He stand out with the way that he moves. I am excited for both of these players. Both of these players have intangibles and outlooks into the game that I think lead to success. You got to build the right habits, and it seems like they have the right habits and mentalities to be successful pros. And I'm rooting for them. Bell, Tarik, Houston. I'm rooting for all of these guys going forward. And I'm also rooting for you, because we all in this together. Y'all make Locked On HBCU your first listen of the day every day. So I'm part of your journey. You're part of my journey. I appreciate all of that. Now, for your second listen, make sure that you're checking out the Locked On Conference shows, ACC, SEC, Big 12, Pac-12. Make sure that you're checking those out. And remember, I told y'all when the mic goes off, the journey is not over. You can follow me on Twitter at South Exclusives. Until the next time that we hear each other, family, take care. Stay blessed. Peace.